Hundreds run riot at Gordon's in Port Mosby. National Court stays the suspension of Damaru. Catholic Church gives warning on the closure of services.
This is National EMTV News with Mary Bartolo.
Good evening and thank you for joining us for Monday's news. The Catholic Church is now at a critical point of frustration and has demanded the government to reconsider the partnership they have, or they will resort to closing down some of their services next year. The Catholic Bishops' Conference of Papua New Guinea and the Solomon Islands General Secretary, Father Victor Roche, says some schools may not be opened. This follows the government's recent move to cut 50 million kina funding for church-run health facilities. Father Roche called on the government to seriously consider meeting with the bishops.
The Catholic Church, who operates the highest number of schools and health facilities around the country, has raised serious concerns about the relationship they have with the government. General Secretary Father Victor Roche says unlike before, they feel that the strong partnership they have with the government is weakening.
The political leaders, the ministers, they say the church is playing an important role, but they do not consider the church, especially the Catholic Church, the important role player, to be as a partner. So the consultation should be serious.
In a media conference today, he says the church is now at a critical point of frustration. With a 51 million kina cut on budget for church health services and ineffective funding of tuition fee refunds, the church is losing control of the services. The General Secretary warned that next year Catholic schools that have no memorandum of agreement with the respective provincial education boards may not be able to open.
So that means that the bishops really went one step further to say, if you don't come good accepting us as partners, then we are ready to close our schools in 2017. Because I don't think some of the provincial governments or even the national government, I don't think they are taking the Catholic Church serious.
In 2013, during the bishops' annual meeting held in Medang, Prime Minister Peter O'Neill visited the bishops and promised to arrange a meeting with respective heads of health and education. However, to date, the meeting has yet to eventuate.
And we call on the Prime Minister that he should have these meetings and consider not only the Catholic Church but also the other churches as partners. And these consultations will be very useful and will be very constructive.
Father Victor says the heads of government, health and education departments seriously needs to meet with the church to discuss a way forward. Quinten Alomp, National EMTV News.
The operation arm of the PNG Correctional Services has received a petition expressing grievances of over 50 CS members who claim they were put off the payroll. Most of the officers affected in this case work as warders at the Bomana prison outside Port Mosby. The two-page petition was presented to the CS headquarters last Friday.
After presenting the petition, the officers visited media outlets to publicly express their grievances. The team that came to MTV studio last Friday was headed by Sergeant Mark Panden and Corporal Francis Duruba.
Without fortnight pays.
Their concerns were on their removal from the payroll and the appointment and transfer of few senior CS officers.
Something working long and while I'm stable is a temporary period time, I'm transferring some officers. All plenty belong senior officers I'm transferring now. Me black seems the secular aste effective belong 14, which I'm aste 14 yeah. So some members am offset them all of pay. Na some pay belong all security risk allowance lo look at them carabus lo banis cut him. Which one may affect him all some service allowance belong workman too. Na plan the money too within the space of 2 weeks here I'm committing plan the money go outside or some unknown payments.
Following the decision by the National Executive Council to change the CS Commissioner in February, a number of events have unfolded. Events CS office is described as new in the force. In February, there was an attempted break-in and entering into the CS Armory at Bomana and a jail breakout in Lay's Bumo prison. The change in the CS Commissioner's position was challenged in court, based on the grounds that Commissioner Michael Waipo was unlawfully removed from office. He was reinstated by the Supreme Court as Commissioner, pending the judicial review on the NEC decision. The orders in place restrains CS Minister James Simatab and NEC appointed Acting Commissioner Bernard Nepo from interfering with Waipo's commands.
We have gone without fortnight pace, terminated us from the fortnight because we are currently with the Acting Commissioner, and since because of the court ruling, he has taken us out of the payroll, and he has been victimizing us, and we feel that if he is the commissioner of the day, we are also his officers, and he should look up. We should look up unto him as our commissioner, regardless of whichever government we serve, whichever commissioner we serve. Still, we are his officers.
This morning, MTV News was told the head of CS Operations will be responding to the petition. The petition was signed by 24 CS officers based in Port Mosby. Tekla Gunga, National, MTV News.
There has been some development in the suspension of fraud squad officers. We'll bring you that story later on. But first, Police Commissioner Gary Baki said the suspension of Chief Superintendent Matthew Damaru and Chief Inspector Timothy Gitwa has no political influence. Baki said the suspensions are independent, purely administrative in nature, and has nothing to do with the current turn of events undertaken by the National Fraud and Anti-Corruption Division. Damaru and Gitwa were suspended along with the officer in charge of fraud, Inspector Joel Simatab, and 4 other members of the Fraud Directorate.
Going on with their investigations as well.
Commissioner Baki has called for the public not to take his action out of context. He said that the only issue that will emerge as a result of the suspension is the time frame of his administrative action. Despite the suspension, Damaru and Gitwa will attend to cases that they currently have before the court. Baki maintained that his action is to take complete command and control of his men.
I'm accountable to my minister. If he asks me questions, I answer questions. I do not get any directions from anyone. I don't get directions from anyone, and politicians know me in and out. This is the second time I assume this job here as police commissioner. I can get sacked for disobeying instructions if I have to.
The suspension of Damaru and his officers came after the arrest of Justice Sir Bennett Sakura, Principal Lawyer Tiffany Twive, and Attorney General and Justice Minister Ano Pala consecutively last week. Commissioner Baki claimed he never received any brief of the investigations and the arrest of those high-profile people until after the media reported about it. Baki said Damaru and his team continued to defy his directions and were acting outside of police procedures.
I have taken steps to assume command and control of the erratic and out of control National Fraud and Anti-Corruption Directorate and to restore some integrity into the Royal Papua New Guinea Constabulary.
The senior legal officer and commissioner's review officer, Chief Superintendent Hodges Ete, was appointed as the acting director of fraud. His deputy is Chief Inspector Jacob Ivaroa. Vasinata Yama, National MTV News.
Corresponding to the suspension, Police Commissioner Gary Baki said there is evidence of bribery and police fraud officers receiving money to investigate the Eastern Highlands and Simbu provincial administrations. He confirmed that 4 other members of the Fraud Directorate have also been suspended for conducting an unsanctioned investigation into the Simbu provincial administration. Vasinata Yama reports.
Upon receiving reports that funding for the Simbu investigation was from other source, Commissioner Baki directed the investigators to retreat, but they didn't. Now the Simbu investigation is being investigated. For Eastern Highlands, Mr. Baki confirmed that the National Executive Council has approved more than 1.5 million kina for fraud officers to investigate the provincial administrator. However, Baki said he has evidence that each investigator allegedly received a substantial amount of cash each.
Yes, we have the file that our investigators have on foot. There is also a complaint with regards to this matter. Okay, and we have now another team will be traveling from Leh to actually go back and relook at this whole matter again.
Baki said that numerous fraud investigations have been allegedly influenced and paid for by people seeking to manipulate and pervert the course of justice. He added that other members of the fraud squad will also be investigated for alleged personal enrichment. Officer in charge of fraud, Inspector Joel Simatab, has also been suspended and will be arrested and charged for bribery and official corruption allegations.
How can I do that when I do not have any information about the investigations? There's nothing. These investigations into the Eastern Highlands provincial government commenced last year in July. From July until today, I don't even now as I'm talking to you, I do not even have a brief from the fraud squad.
Vasinata Yama, National EMTV News.
The suspension of Fraud and Anti-Corruption Director Matthew Damaru has been stayed by the Waigani National Court this afternoon. This follows submissions made by Damaru's lawyer to restrain the appointment of an acting director pending the substantive hearing. The decision was handed down by Justice Alan David before a packed courtroom.
Parties involved in this matter are Crimes Commissioner Victor Isove, Police Commissioner Gary Baki, and Fraud and Anti-Corruption Director Matthew Damaru. The matter was filed as an urgent application yesterday and listed for hearing this afternoon. After 30 minutes of debate by lawyers representing the three parties, the case was adjourned for 20 minutes to allow lawyers to come to a compromise on when the substantive matter will be heard. The substantive matter is in relation to the exercising of the Police Commissioner's powers to suspend or terminate a police officer. An ex parte order was granted after the adjournment, and lawyers representing Baki and Isove were asked to vacate the courtroom. In the ex parte proceedings, Damaru's lawyer, Greg Egan, told the court that Damaru was suspended because he did not inform the Crimes Commissioner on a fraud investigation into the Simbu provincial administration. The investigation was described as unsanctioned in the notice of suspension served to Damaru on Saturday. The court heard that Isove was not aware of the investigations in Simbu. However, Egan argued that Isove had authorized the trip when he signed the travel allowance of over 3,000 kina for the four investigators.
On an interim basis, I'm happy with the decision of the court.
The matter will return to court in May, but for now the court is restraining the further appointment of an acting director.
And that's why we've come to this court to seek the court's intervention.
Meanwhile, Police Commissioner Gary Baki will be responding to this court order at 7 o'clock tonight. Tekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
People were injured, properties damaged, and a man died following an ethnic clash between men from Tari and another group from Copiago in the Southern Highlands. The incident happened at Gordon's Market in the nation's capital this afternoon. According to eyewitnesses, the fight started over the weekend after a drunken Tari man was stabbed when harassing men from Copiago. His death today prompted relatives to retaliate, causing a riot at the Gordon's Market. Eric Harupma with this report.
Several people were injured, business houses closed, traffic affected, and people fled for their lives at Gordon's Market in the nation's capital this afternoon after armed men from Tari retaliated against men from Copiago over a death. The riot escalated again today after relatives of the deceased found out about his death. In addition, windscreens of PMV buses were smashed by the retaliating mob and the public fled for their safety. However, a quick response by police has prevented what can be described as a close call for the Copiago, including the general public. Eyewitnesses said the fight started when the deceased from Tari was knifed when he was harassing men from Copiago on Saturday morning at Gordon's Market. EMTV arrived at the scene and spoke to the eyewitnesses.
Tarila begin beg na kam logone emem ate so belate mugra car glass mol bend him down logone old man meri poret no ronim kam mugra car taxi give number gona ogra man meri pick doga sambla kamle sambla golo pipe ma sambla ol mas na mem service station ol toge em sleep labsta em one blood sonna no rest
NCD Superintendent Inspector Ben Turi was present at the scene, condemned this ethnic clash and called on leaders of opposing factions to meet and solve this matter immediately.
The situation here is the result of two ethnic groups, Korba and Tari. This in the case of the weekend, they started a fight, and it continued again today. So this ethnic group started a fight over minor issues here at the market, and disrupting a lot of people.
Buses are not running and traveling public in and around the city were affected. Eric Arupma, National EMTV News.
The case of 6 PNGDF soldiers slammed with murder charges over the death of 19-year-old Jeremiah Yino, a Salvation Army student, on July the 25th last year, was extended to next week, Wednesday. The adjournment will give sufficient time for the Defence Counsel to file their bail application on circumstances determining whether bail should be granted or not. The case was recalled after it was temporarily struck out based on technical grounds that police prosecutors did not prepare the court files on time. The 6 soldiers are Jude Nidug, David Tape, Kenneth Yangun, Tobias Samson, Gregory Tuwaki, Francis Nasi and Alwin Matiabe. They will be remanded in police custody awaiting their trial. You're watching National EMTV News. Among stories after the break, a new PNG Ports contract signed with the ICCC, reviving coffee plantations in Simbu, and a proposed biosecurity bill. Stay with us. Welcome back to National EMTV News. A new PNG Ports regulatory contract was signed at the Independent Consumer and Competition Commission office today. ICCC Commissioner Paulus Ain said with this regulatory contract, the ICCC can now be able to monitor pricing and port services with due diligence to public interest. PNG Ports Chief Executive Officer Stanley Alphonse said the document was important to PNG Ports as they embark on getting into international best practice.
This signing was attended by the management of PNG Ports Corporation and ICCC. The regulatory regime between ICCC and PNG Ports has been in existence since 2002. Through the regulatory contract, the ICCC sets the minimum service standard requirements and the price path and the pricing principles.
This regulatory contract is a document that sets out the pricing arrangement where the ICCC oversights on PNG Ports' tariff setting arrangement.
ICCC regulates PNG Ports and its services through a regulatory contract. The last one was from January 2010 and expired in December of 2014. To replace that contract, the ICCC and PNG Ports undertook a review to determine a new regulatory contract for the next 5 years from 2015 to 2019.
Firstly, it's a milestone in itself. As Commissioner rightfully mentioned, it took us a bit of a while, probably 2 years and a quarter months to get to where we are at the moment. Let me at this juncture thank the Commissioner for your immaculate leadership in that regard to bring this outstanding matter to some sort of conclusion.
Mr. Alphonse said the regulatory contract was important for PNG Ports in terms of international best practice, at a time when it is now embarking on public-private partnership arrangements with new terminal operators.
The document is very important in the sense that it sets out the going forward pricing. It gives the price surety to our international partners, so they have that guarantee in terms of the pricing in order to make the investment decisions, of course, in carrying the massive capital outlay, that we can get efficiency and efficacy through very good productivity.
Deli Waigeno, National EMTV News.
Simbu Province has entered into a partnership with the Coffee Industry Corporation, who will provide funding to rehabilitate coffee plantations and revive the industry in the province. Simbu used to be a leading coffee producer, but production slumped due to low prices. However, it remains a leader in downstream processing through various brands produced by Simbu-based Congo Coffee.
Simbu Province is rocky and mountainous, but the people grow coffee where they can. Until a few years ago, Simbu was ranked the #3 coffee producer in the country. But production dwindled following a price slump. On Friday, with the arrival of the Prime Minister, Chuave MP Weramori announced that coffee production would be revived.
We have to be prepared now for the future.
The Coffee Industry Corporation, through funding from the World Bank, will be injecting money into the Simbu coffee industry to rehabilitate plantations with the aim to increase production. The CIC has increased its activities on many fronts in the Moresby province. Coffee cooperatives have taken off in the last 5 years, partly because of their ability to organize farmers and partly because of the CIC's activities. 2 years ago, Moresby farmers were given a license to export, the move adding value to an activity that has been in existence for the last 50 years in the province. But Simbu, the Eastern Highlands and the Western Highlands still have a hold on the export of processed coffee, with brands like Congo, Goroka, Awute and Barnes Coffee much sought after by collectors. Scott Waide, National MTV News, Ley.
Oro Rice Growers Association has received over 3,000 kina for locally grown rice sold to Trukai Industries. Though a small amount, the purchase is a demonstration of economic empowerment and independence for Oro farmers. Farmers were growing rice for consumption previously, but they can now sell to a market. Bethany Harriman with this report.
Rice was first introduced to Papua New Guinea about 200 years ago, but it didn't receive the support it deserved to become a cash crop, even though rice consumption had risen. It was not until 2007 when Cyclone Guba hit Oro province and the people were giving rice seeds to replace the crops that had been damaged during the cyclone.
The results were astonishing. The rice is growing well, there is a surplus and farmers are making money from the rice.
Production where we producing now, currently for sale, 6 ton. And first container companies, lay port, processing, mill rice.
Oro Rice Growers Association Chairman Eric Saese received the payment on behalf of the farmers for 6 tons of rice shipped from the province to Ley. Trukai Industries is expecting another 18 tons of rice from the association. The company says they took substantial risks to help the farmers get off the ground, and the rice supplied is promising for the future.
We need to continue to develop them. We need to be cost effective. We need to increase the volumes that are coming out, and we need to be able to maintain quality of the rice so that it is usable in our market. But you know, to get it being grown and coming back in is definitely encouraging.
On September the 1st, Trukai Chairman Mark Robertson and Sunshine Chairman Lowry Arthur visited the farmers in Oro, saying they would share their expertise and knowledge. The payment of the rice on Friday brings the farmers closer to economic independence in a sustainable sector on land they own and control.
Today we had 4 of our farmers travel from Oro province to deliver the first shipment of rice from Oro, 6 tons. And there's about 18 tons that will also be shipped over in due time. And this is the culmination of a partnership between the Oro provincial government, the rice growers and Trukai farms.
Other places that have sold Trukai Industries rice include Amadi Baga in Kairaku Central Province, and on the same path Kapore in the West New Britain Province and Morobes Chinwa in the Markham District. Bethany Harriman, National MTV News, Ley.
The Papua New Guinea Cocoa Board has launched its strategic plan. Cocoa Board CEO Poto Gaupu said since the establishment of the industry in 1974, there has not been any guidelines or plans. Gaupu said the cocoa business depends solely on who's running the business. He said with government support, the industry would increase production rates. Cocoa production remains stable at around 40,000 tons per year, but dropped to 30,000 following the cocoa pod borer, a disease that destroyed most of the cocoa pods around the country. The 10-year plan is to revitalize the business into one that is more innovative. A 2-day national consultation is underway for a proposed biosecurity bill. Organized by the National Agriculture Quarantine Inspection Authority, or NAQIA, this consultation with government stakeholders is expected to yield constructive commentaries on the draft bill before it is presented to the National Executive Council. Minister for Agriculture and Livestock Tommy Tomskol urged the participants to ensure that the bill harmonizes the protection of food safety as well as encourage trade for wealth creation.
The national consultation on the proposed biosecurity bill was attended by officers from NACIA, World Trade Organization branch of the Department of Trade, Commerce and Industry, and other stakeholders. Minister for Agriculture and Livestock Tommy Tomskol urged the participants to ensure that the bill not only cater for food security and keeping away of exotic pests and diseases, but also ensure that standards are maintained and trade is efficient.
Old-fashioned biosecurity bill deals with removing and restricting pests and diseases through management. But if we are not careful and we underestimate the impact of this bill, we can easily become an obstruction to economic growth. We can easily become a distraction to the creation of wealth for our people, because when we do not implement it in the way it is supposed to harmonize with trade, supposed to harmonize with creating wealth, it stops the growth of wealth. It stops trading to happen. But the productive biosecurity bill is a document that should encourage trade and at the same time create wealth for our people within our country.
Among the many comments Mr. Tomskol gave on the draft bill was tougher penalties for those who breach PNG's quarantine laws.
This legislation is supposed to be strict. It's supposed to be strong. So those who continue to breach must pay the cost very high. We cannot continue to allow them to breach. They appear at our district courts and national courts and pay a very low fine, and then they go back and continue to breach. Repeated offenders must have no place in this country. And your responsibility is to bring them to an end using this new bill.
Managing Director of NACIA, Joel Alu, said the first 2 days will see government stakeholders give their views and ideas, and on Thursday, the private sector will also have their say. The proposed biosecurity bill will be then presented to NEC once all is finalized. Deli Waigeno, National, MTV News.
In the meantime, Minister for Agriculture and Livestock Tommy Tomskol has scolded NACIA for its inefficiency. He criticized the slow working pace of officers that resulted in the long period it has taken to draft the biosecurity bill. Minister Tomskol put it all down to in-house fighting. He appealed to all staff of NACIA to accept diversity, work together and maintain professionalism.
NACIA is one organization in our sector that is inefficient because too many of you quarrel and envy to be in the management position without delivering. If you want to rise into higher positions, you have to deliver. You have to work and you will be recognized. If you want to argue and if you want to fight, there is no place in NACIA for you. So I appeal to you all, work as a professional people because this is a professional organization.
And now a look at the finance news. The kina opened unchanged at $0.3195 US in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your kina was buying $0.3120 US, $0.4040 Australian dollars, $0.2731 euro and 33.55 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold closed higher, while coffee, cocoa and copper closed the day lower. Palm oil, crude oil and copper closed the day lower. And on the stock markets, the Dow Jones closed at 28 points lower, the ASX closed 25 points lower, and the All Ordinaries closed 23 points lower. Still to come, Sundown Governor visits families of those who died in the Kiunga plane crash and hundreds killed in earthquakes in South America and Japan. Welcome back to National MTV News. Access to basic government services is still a big problem in most remote areas of the country. Mare village in the Huon district of Moresby province is one village still struggling to access government services. For many years, the only way Mare villagers can go to Lae is by swimming across the Wampit River. But that is about to change with the construction of a new bridge. It will connect Mare village and Wampit.
It takes about 2 hours to walk from Mare village to reach Wampit River and a few 15 minutes to cross the river to get onto the main highway to catch a PMV bus to Lae. Land transportation into the village is only possible during low tide. Mare village is one of the villages in Moresby that supplies Lae's main market with fresh produce. Women and girls carry produce and cross this river to get to the other side.
Mama too, or come lo market by hard long or travel come upside because I'm 30 broken we long all
Access lo town, mi plus a long headwater. Look him now headwater come up here and by cut him off service blow Mare.
It's also difficult for the sick and elderly who also have to cross the river to get help. Many have died while trying to cross.
Plenty time and plenty man married I finish.
The new bridge construction will save many lives, but for now the people have to cross Warawampi to access government services. The only government services found in the village are Mare Elementary School, Mare Primary School and a health center. Mata Luis, National EMTV News, Lae.
Papua New Guineans who died in the Kiunga plane crash are all from Telefomen in the Sundown province. Early this afternoon, their governor, Amkat Mai, arrived in Kiunga to pay his respects and visit his relatives who are mourning the death of their loved ones. Governor Mai is from the Divanap village, where all but one of the victims is from.
He arrived on the 12 p.m. Air Niugini flight from Port Mosby. There to meet him at the airport was a delegation from the Kiunga house cry.
So this pla all 11 pla daya. I'm walking down line blow me or same na. Be like calm long, comforting more people blow me. Talk sorry long all now relatives. Long all lock sabin two all people blow me long West Big.
Governor Mai is the first political and provincial official from Sundown and Western Province to visit the house cry to offer support since the plane crash in Kiunga 5 days ago. While Telefomen district is located in Sundown Province, the nearest accessible town to the people who live there is Kiunga in Western Province.
This area, border area, the Western West Civic, resource-rich area, but very rugged, very isolated. So people by continue to die unless government want them or developers, our development counterparts, all can do walking more road come inside of this area and by good our people and will save lives.
Since the tragic plane crash, 6 house cries have been set up, one each in Tabobil, Port Mosby, Vanimo, Telefomen, Oksapmin, and in Kiunga, which is nearest to the Kiunga District Hospital morgue, where the bodies are kept pending investigations. The Kiunga plane crash claimed 12 lives, 11 passengers from Telefomen District, including the Australian pilot. Sarah Aupong, National EMTV News.
Turning overseas now, and coastal Ecuador in South America is in tatters after a powerful earthquake. The death toll now stands at 272, and officials say that number is bound to rise. Rescue teams are working around the clock, searching debris for signs of life.
A young girl pulled from the wreckage of a building, one of the first glimpses of rescue operations underway in Ecuador. After a magnitude 7.8 earthquake tore through the country's coastal region Saturday night, the catastrophic quake left behind a trail of destruction.
Everything is completely destroyed. The majority of the buildings have fallen, and there are a lot of dead.
Hundreds have been confirmed dead, making the quake the deadliest to hit the small South American nation since 1987. And the most vulnerable are the hardest to reach.
Roads are in really bad shape. And then also the area is very vulnerable because of the intense rainfall that has gotten because of El Nino. So those two factors have made it a challenging environment to work in.
The quake's epicenter was just off Ecuador's coast, south of Muisne in Esmeraldas province. A state of emergency is in effect for 6 provinces, spanning the majority of the country's coastline. Hotels have been leveled, bridges collapsed, and families left destitute.
Found my house like this. What am I going to do? Cry, that's all. Now we are on the street with nothing.
Countries around the world are offering help.
Our friend countries, Venezuela, Mexico, Colombia, Peru, Spain, and the EU, have all offered to send rescue workers with specialized tools and food rations needed for this type of situation.
So far, thousands of police and military personnel have been deployed to affected areas. Portable hospitals have been mobilized in the hard-hit cities of Pedernales and Puerto Viejo. And rescue teams and helicopters continue to search for survivors. The extent of damage is only just being realized. But one thing is clear: Ecuador faces a long, difficult road to recovery from this disaster.
Meanwhile, 2 other powerful earthquakes hit Japan on Friday and Saturday. At least 42 people were killed, hundreds missing, and the search is also on to find survivors.
Her 80-year-old father survived when this building collapsed on top of him. And that's the only piece of good news Kiyomi Matsuoka has got. It's just so surreal, she says. I'm still in shock. Kiyomi's family ran a salon in this building for 40 years. They lived together in the back. But 2 earthquakes, the first on Thursday, then again on Saturday, shredded her home. It's devastating, she says, utterly devastating. Kiyomi is like tens of thousands of others in southwest Japan, still reeling from the unexpected disasters. Dozens were killed, hundreds injured, and some are still missing, buried under twisted metal and wood. We watched as a rescue team went property by property, looking for anyone still alive. It's grim work. Few have been found so far, but that's partly because precautions were taken. This picture is from Friday, and this is what that same home looks like right now. Oddly enough, many people we've spoken to in this neighborhood tell us they're actually happy that 2 earthquakes occurred. After the first one hit, tens of thousands of people were forced to evacuate from neighborhoods like this one. So when the second one hit on Saturday, some 15 times stronger than the first one, there were less people around. That might have saved lives. Most of those evacuees ended up at shelters like this one. Parents, kids, grandparents, dogs. Some don't have homes to return to. The ones that do are simply too afraid to go back for fear of more aftershocks. Everything was shaking so badly during the earthquake, he said, I thought it was the end of my life. Count Kiyomi Matsuoka among those with nowhere to go. She's staying in her car for now, but was so stoic and calm when she talked to us. She only choked up when we asked her what comes next. I wanted this business to stay in my family for generations, she says. I'm not sure that can happen now. The earthquakes were over in a few moments, but their effect will be felt far longer than that.
True Guy Sports is next. We'll have further details when we come back.
True Guy Sports.
Welcome to True Guy Sports. The local organizing committee for the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup met with the PNG Sports Foundation last week to discuss how the LOC will work with the venues team during the hosting of the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup in November.
Chief Executive Officer of the PNG Sports Foundation, Peter Chiamelili, said there are 6 months before the tournament, and the constant dialogue with the local organizing committee will ensure that his team brings the venues up to FIFA standard requirements.
In a partnership and understanding that we are going to be the infrastructure body, while the LOC obviously is going to be the organizing body of the event. Those two have to be in sync, so we know how things are going and how we're tracking with our time in achieving those key dates. So it's really important that you also get the feel and see what's actually happening, and also the people behind the responsible key areas of the operation.
The tournament will be held in Port Moresby at the Sir John Guy Stadium, National Football Stadium, Bava Park Mini Stadium and PNG Football Stadium. 16 training sites have also been identified and are prepared for the 16 participating nations who will be competing. It is estimated that 560 players and officials will be in the country for the event. 5 hotels in the city will be accommodating the players, including technical officials during the tournament. LOC Chief Executive Officer Seamus Martin said this is going to be the biggest sporting event that will ever be broadcasted from Papua New Guinea.
We really need to, I believe, prioritise this World Cup as much as possible, because it will have a real impact on the world stage for the country, for the region.
There'll be over 124 million television viewers from 1,000 countries watching the tournament from Papua New Guinea, and this will be the country's chance to showcase its potential. In hosting such global event, Martin said the local organizing committee is to ensure that PNG is ready to host the great FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup come November. A number of key milestone events are expected to be launched in the lead-up to the tournament, which includes the launch of the official mascot, the volunteer program, ticket sales and the trophy tour. Meanwhile, the LOC will be using the OFC Nations Cup, which will be hosted in Port Moresby from 28 May to 11 June, as a test event in preparation for the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup. The FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup Papua New Guinea 2016 will be held from 13th of November to the 3rd of December. Shane Saroya, National EMTV Sports.
In football, both PNG champion sides, Lace City Dwellers and Hekari United, have left positive marks on their dual campaign in the OFC Champions League, despite failing to qualify for the semi-finals of the competition. Lace City had been desperate for a win to continue their stay in the tournament, while Hekari fell apart at the last hurdle to crash out dismally.
Both Team Wellington and Hekari United came into the day's final match with 6 points from 2 matches. Hekari sitting in the box seat courtesy of superior goal difference. A draw would have been enough for the PNG team to progress to the Final Four. Jerry Allen's men started the match with intent. However, Wellington doing well to weather the storm before asserting their dominance after 15 minutes. Captain Bill Robinson sending the New Zealand side ahead when he rifled a Tom Jackson cross into the top right corner in the 21st minute.
Chance and goal!
Robertson grabbed his second 16 minutes later with a looping header to give his side a 2-0 lead at the break.
Oh, and a save by Pole. Robertson! Oh, and it's in!
Hekari would struggle to deal with Team Wellington's set pieces and aerial presence, evident when 10 minutes after the break, an excellent corner from Leonardo Villa was turned into the net by Tom Jackson.
There's a problem, and a goal!
Elsewhere, it was a 9-goal thriller between the Solomon Warriors and debutants Lace City Dwellers. The start of the match delayed due to wet conditions, and when it finally got underway, it was clear that both sides were gunning for victory. Lace skipper Raymond Ginemba gave his side the lead after just 3 minutes. The sides were back on level terms 4 minutes after that, courtesy of Brian Caltech's spectacular drive from just outside the area.
There's a shot. Oh, that's a lovely strike!
The Dwellers restored their lead in the 34th minute after the unlucky Fred Fakari turned the ball into his own net following a miscued cross by Nigel Dabinyaba.
Oh, and it's ended up in the back of the Warriors' net.
But it was back to equal footing when Lace City defender Valentine Nelson put an attempted clearing into his own net.
Oh, yeah! What a goal!
The non-stop action continued after the break, with the Warriors taking the lead through Jerry Donga, who did well to force his way around the advancing keeper Ronald Warrison.
Persistent pays off.
Solomon's lead lasted just 7 minutes as the dangerous Dabinyaba powered down the right flank to find the far corner with a low drive.
Fine finish.
Michael Foster converting from the penalty spot after a handball inside the box. But the Warriors equalized straight after, courtesy of a Molea Tigi strike. The City pushed forward desperately, searching for their maiden Champions League victory. But the Warriors held their nerve to grab the points with an 87th minute winner.
Chance, blocked, and it's in the back of the net from Jerry Donga.
Jeremy Mogi, National, EMTV Sports.
Still on football, the PNG Football Association has released draws for upcoming international fixtures regarding both the under-20 women's national team and also the senior men's teams. These matches are key friendlies in preparation for both the FIFA World Cup qualifiers as well as the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup in November. The Under-20 women will face Japan and the United States, with the matches to commence on the 24th of May, with further matches showcased 3 days apart. For the men's national team, the match against Malaysia will be held after the OFC Nations Cup, with the hope that this will prepare them better for the World Cup qualifiers. Trukai Sports continues after the break. Don't go away.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. Damian Jordan has taken out the 2016 Moresby Open in Lae over the weekend. Jordan withheld the early challenges over the opening 9, holding a 4-shot lead heading to the 18th hole. A double bogey wasn't the ideal way to seal the win, though his final round 70 would be good enough for a 17 under, the card total, and a 2-shot victory over Simon Houston. Jordan was challenged early by Josh Caban, and Simon Houston remained steady throughout the final round. The professionals will now make their way across to Port Mosby for the South Pacific Redler PNG Open. Josh Caban will return as the defending champion and played as a PGA Tour of Australasia tournament. The 5th Central Provincial Games commenced today at Kukila Station in Rigo Central Province. The games are a 2-part series with teams competing in 9 sporting codes. Teams taking part are all from the 5 districts of Central Province.
This year's 5th Central Provincial Games commenced today at the Kukila Station in Rigo District, Central Province. The opening of the games began with district teams marching in a colorful parade by their team colors. Teams Karaku, Hiri, Rigo and Abao had arrived yesterday to take part in the ball games for today that will continue tomorrow, while Team Goilala will be in on Wednesday to take part in track and field. The mixed high school team newcomers are confident to take lead in the games. The first 2 days of the games will be ball games that include volleyball, soccer and rugby 9s, while track and field will be on Wednesday and Thursday. Central Province Deputy Governor Desmond Byra said the provincial government is funding the games.
I am calling on the governor himself, the members of the parliament, Rigo, Goilala, Abao and Kairoku. I want them to support the team for us to go and play well, for us to go and win more medals, for us to go to number 1, number 2 places. We need financial support. Correct? So the provincial government, with the help of our members of the parliament, must support the team.
The one-week sporting event is a qualifier for ball and track and field sporting codes to represent Team Central in the 2016 PNG Games. The PNG Games will take place in Kimber, West New Britain on November this year. Merlin Diaukatam, National EMTV Sports.
To Rugby League, and the SPPNG Hunters secured their 6th win over the weekend against the North Devils, defeating them 34-22 at the National Football Stadium in Port Moresby. The Devils opened the scoring early in the match and furthered their lead a few minutes after. The Hunters struck back with 3 tries just before half-time to take the lead. In the second half, the Devils crossed over the line to bring their score up to 22. This would see the SPPNG Hunters fight back through Benjamin Hetra, Justin Olam and Adam Korave scoring tries to steal the victory for the home team. The SPPNG Hunters play the Bears this weekend at Pizzi Park. And that ends Trukai Sports. Don't go away, the weather details after the break.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
A quick look at the weather tonight in the southern region. Port Mosby, Daru, Kerma, Popondetta and Alatau, some showers over the next 24 hours. And that's the news, sports and weather we have for you for tonight. On behalf of the EMTV News team, pleasant viewing. Good night.